Okay, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Nick Haywood, who's going to introduce Dame Anne-Marie. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us for the first talk 2026. And tonight we have our first Dame, I think, who's given a Zoom talk. It's Dame Anne-Marie Delmotte, and she holds the title of Knight in the Leopold Order from the King of Belgium for her work as a chemist, I understand, for the Belgian government. So she still works for the government as a scientist, but of course she has other interests which she's going to talk about tonight, and those lie outside of traditional science. For she is also a dowser, a prolific author, a teacher, and I understand a Reiki practitioner. So I understand that Anne-Marie has always been very sensitive to all kinds of energies, and the scientist then has always wanted to find out, how to objectify those sensations she's felt. So she spent some time looking for a suitable instrument, and she eventually located what I'm not quite sure how you pronounce this, the Lecher or the Lecher antenna. It's a very novel dowsing instrument, and to be sure, I for one was unaware of this instrument until I happened upon her website. But armed with this instrument, she's made measurements of Earth energies in many places, particularly megalithic sites in Ireland and Brittany and France, and in France. And as a result, I understand she now feels equally at home in Ireland as she does in her native Belgium. Anyway, this work is an extension of her general interest in geobiology, which loosely is the influence of Earth energies on our health and well-being. And we're very fortunate tonight to have her here to talk about her extensive research work, and looking forward to a very interesting talk. So without further ado, it's Anne-Marie Delmotte. Thank you. So if I pin Anne-Marie, Richard, there we go.
Okay, thank
Right.
you. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Richard. And I would also like to say that it's actually Nick's birthday today. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, even on your special day. So good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Nick, for the introduction. And also a big thank you to the British Society of Dowsers for the invitation to give this talk. I feel very honored. It's always good to be able to make more people aware about the existence of this wonderful and precious instrument that is the Lecher antenna, which is part of my talk tonight. So as Nick, I might repeat a few things Nick said there, because I actually prepared this talk for tonight, and I didn't learn it off by heart though. So I'll come back to this just in a minute there. So my name is Anne-Marie Delmotte, and my talk is about the Lecher antenna and also some of my research and findings of the energies at megalithic sites I conducted with the Lecher antenna. My megalithic research is very vast, so to stay within the given time frame, I will limit myself to one very special type of megalithic monument, this being the rectangular arrangement of stones. I chose this type of energy configuration because it can be useful to us to you and to us, to anybody, for better living and well-being, or better crops, or better livestock. But maybe you can show the first slide, Nick,
Yes.
Which is the title of the talk.
One moment. Let me just share the screen. Go. Okay. There we go. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes,
Okay.
so the talk is, the title is Ancient Resonance, Reconnecting with the Earth's Hidden Forces through the Lecher Antenna. for healing land and homes. Now, I work indeed as a scientist for the Belgian government, and where I received the title of Knight from our King as an honorification for my work for the Belgian government. But I am currently on a very long career break from my function to work on my own scientific research project about subtle energy, which is completely separate and has nothing to do with my work for the government. Now, I also have a master degree in Uzui Reiki, Shamanic Reiki, Crystal Reiki, and a Reiki space clearing practitioner degree. But my instruments and my practice is the Lecher antenna. That's, you can't persuade me of doing anything else. So because I am hypersensitive to all kinds of energies and wanted to objectify what I was sensing, I searched for an instrument that is able to measure and determine these energies objectively and scientifically. And as a scientist, I also love to measure and quantify things, so put numbers on things, which is definitely the case for the Lecher antenna. So I saw the Lecher antenna for the first time when I was still quite young at a medical doctor's practice in 1987. So that's actually quite a long time ago. And I was completely blown away by it. I really wanted to have one of those. So as you might have already heard, my English is not my native language, but I will do my best to express myself in a clear manner. And I actually have prepared some cards that I will read from time to time. So in order to make sure that my explanations are in good English and I don't digress, because that is something that I can easily do. If I don't write down what I'm going to say, I'm off. And I'll end up talking an hour about something completely different because I have so much research that I've done that I want to share. And I really need to limit myself to things that might interest you the most. So I try to make this lecture as logical, as understandable as possible, and sometimes the information overlaps, and it is also much more elaborate than what I can talk about in an hour. So I would recommend to you to read my books if you wish to find out more. So if you can show, yes, the next slide. My presentation is structured as follows. Questions can be asked after the presentation. So I will first explain what a Lecher antenna is with which I measured the megalithic sites, how it was developed and how it works and what applications it can be used for. Then I will explain about the energies of the earth because these are important to better understand what happens at megalithic sites. I will also briefly explain the different types of megalithic sites as they each show distinct and recurring energy patterns or configurations which are similar in different countries. After this, I will dive deeper into a certain type of megalith, as this can be helpful to you for land healing and healing sick houses. But first, the Lecher antenna. So origin, what does a Lecher antenna look like and how does it work? Now, the principle of the Lecher antenna was developed by the Austrian physicist Ernst Lecher in 1889, hence the name Lecher antenna. He was a colleague of Einstein, and actually his purpose was, and I'm going off the cards here, so I have to be very careful. His purpose was actually to develop an instrument that can measure wavelength and frequencies. So what did he do? He put two metallic wires in parallel that run into infinity, and on that he put a kind of a movable cursor or on which there was a lamp. So whenever the lamp lit up, that was his wavelength. So have to go back to my cards now. So the Lecher wires were then further adapted. Those two metallic wires are actually called Lecher wires. They were further adapted by physicist Reinhard Schneider to be able to be used as a measuring device of energies of very low intensity. So in the photo here, you can see what a Lecher antenna looks like. And it is a scientific instrument that can detect and send energy. Very important, send energy. So it is always sending the energy it is set to. Even if the arms are folded up, even if it's in a drawer or in its pouch. That's the peculiar thing about this instrument, and that's something to be aware of. It's a good thing as well, but it's something to be aware of. So you have to always be mindful to put it on something positive. Say like unconditional love and gratitude. So imagine that everybody that has a Lecher antenna has it in their drawer or somewhere on a post or table set to unconditional love or inner peace. That's all energy that's going to be diffused into the world. So also this Lecher antenna has two arms to hold the instrument. Then it has a base block. That's the detector. So it's actually the underneath of the base block. That's the detector. That has to be directed towards what you want to measure. It's a question of convention as well. So that you're not like picking up everything around you before and behind the base block. No, it's the underneath of the base block. So the white ruler that you see, that is in centimeters. And that's actually your wavelength. Now, actually, the ruler is upside down. The zero should be where the arm meets the Lecher wire. So in that movable cursor, there's a little metallic rod, and that is your setting. That's your Lecher antenna setting. So the distance where that little metal rod is in that movable cursor and where your arm meets the Lecher wire, that is your wavelength. And just by means of a simple formula with the velocity of light in vacuum, you can calculate the frequency. So the principle of the Lecher antenna is based on resonance. This can be compared to someone singing a high note, which makes someone's crystal glass shatter somewhere else in the room. Or, for example, tuning forks. Two similar tuning forks, and one strikes it, the other one will just start to tremble as well by means of resonance. So this is what actually takes place within the Lecher antenna. When you set it to a certain setting and that energy is there, that will induce certain forces and currents within the Lecher antenna, which makes it slightly tremble and makes it want to dip. So the upper part will want to dip. It's a slight tremble. This is independent, like with a pendulum or dowsing rods, where it's like a muscle that in your arms that has to direct what the pendulum is going to do, or the dowsing rods. This is completely independent. It's scientific forces, physical forces within the Lecher antenna that makes it give you a signal or not. But maybe it's better to just demonstrate this by means of a video. And I've chosen a video which is also useful to you and educational. So what am I going to do in that video? Well, I'm here, but I'm in the video as well. So I'm bilocating. I'm going to look for water. So I'm actually on a bridge at the Holy Well in Sligo in Ireland, under which there runs a running stream. So I can see the running stream. Now later on, I will show you that I'm looking for water as well that I can't see, but we have to start somewhere. So what do I do in the video is I'm going to look for the center of the running water at its maximum. So that's where the maximum of the water current is. Then I will look for where that running stream begins, the edge with the border, the center, and the other edge. And then I will go again to the center, and I will show you how you can determine the direction of the flow. So if you can show the video now, Nick, look for water.
Okay, one moment. I shall do that. All right. Second. Ah, that's it. Sorry. So, okay.
Exercise on bridge. Set the Lecher antenna to 7.8 for running water. Look for the center of the running water. Set the Lecher antenna to 7.8 for running water. Look for the beginning, center and end of the running water. Set the Lecher antenna at 7.8 for running water. Look for the center of the running water, then look for the direction of the flow of the water.
One moment. You is that?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
I just unmuted myself in case there would be an echo. Can you show the next slide, please?
Right. Yes. That's right.
So that video was part of my, is part of my geobiology basic level online course. Now, something about Lecher antenna applications. So the Lecher antenna can be used for bioenergetics. And by bioenergetics, I mean reading and balancing the bioenergies of a person. Now, I would like to elaborate on this by means of a case, which is the case of my mom. She was at a nursing home and they had told me that she only had 1 or 2 days left to live. And as my mom had dementia, I asked my stepdad whether it was okay for me to try something, to which he agreed. At that point, I didn't have much of bioenergy training, but I just did with what I had. Now I saw that I measured that her energy connection to the earth was very weak, which meant that she was leaving us soon. So I sent her that earth energy overnight and also energy to strengthen her central nervous system. And it was like a miracle. The next day, she was already more lucid. And 2 days later, she was sitting with the other residents in the recreation room of the nursing home. I remember my stepdad saying, "What did you do?" Like after I sent that energy, I went back to the nursing home. I did that remotely actually. And he said, "What did you do? She's lucid. She's talking. She's back." And wow. So for me, that was really a really eye-opener as to bioenergetics. And at that point, I wanted to learn more about it as well. So she lived for another 3 years after this. Now, another application for bioenergetics with the Lecher antenna is to scan for the most appropriate remedy by bioresonance. And these remedies can be like crystals or highly specific colors, Bach flowers, minerals, Schussler salts, essential oils, homeopathics. And so here in this slide, you see, this is actually what I call my life's work, because it also mentions discussions I had with the doctor more recently, where I saw the Lecher antenna in 1987. So he's still working after 40 years. He's just doing 1 or 2, well, he's working part-time anyway. He just is also so passionate about it, and he wants to make sure his patients are fine, and he has like built up this relationship with his patients for decades. So now there are many other cases in this book also from my own practice and from a practice from another doctor who used it more like for geobiology in his practice room. And this book also contains tips and tricks you can apply immediately without having to have a Lecher antenna to improve your health and well-being. Mainly how to reduce the influence of electromagnetic radiation on your body or on your phone. Well, no, you would need a Lecher antenna for that, but there are several tips and tricks in the book as well that you can apply immediately. So it's definitely a very interesting book to have, and it's a very scientific work, I have to say. So the Lecher antenna can also be used to measure ley lines and the energies at sites like ancient megalithic sites, holy wells, labyrinths, cathedrals, churches, and so on. The Lecher antenna can also be used for geobiology or geobiodynamics. Maybe I should say first what geobiology is. Geobiology is the study of the Earth's influence at a precise location on everything that lives, be it human, animal, or plant. So the Lecher antenna can be used to measure the negative energies that emanate from the Earth. Now, why would you want to measure those negative energies in your home, garden, fields? A good example to illustrate this is the case of my stepdad. He had a prostate operation and just wasn't recuperating from it. It had been six weeks, so I was wondering whether his hospital bed was on geopathic stress. So I asked him his permission to do a reading, and as it seemed, indeed, the very spot he was operated on had a crossing of earth energies, which I won't specify here because that would take us too far. But the geopathy was actually quite, how would you say that? It wasn't like very elaborate, like stagnant water. It was just like it wasn't very wide, so I was able to move the bed enough to make sure that his body was not on that active zone anymore. So I told the staff about that so they wouldn't put the bed back. Yeah, that wouldn't be very, and that was the weirdest thing. Like, I thought they were gonna laugh at me, but I think they must have known that that bed had like maybe lots of patients who didn't get better. So they were very surprised and very understanding, and so they just left the bed where I put it, and he made a speedy recovery after this. So it can be just as easy as that, to be able to help somebody. Now, a Lecher antenna can also be used to measure vibration of a person, which is a very hot topic at the moment. So you can actually measure the raise and vibration of a person, of a dwelling, although I would say raise and vibration of a dwelling, I wouldn't go there. I will talk about this later. Of a room, of an object, food. So you can measure vibration of a lot of things. Now, the Lecher antenna can also be used to look for water, as you just saw in the video, but also precious metals like gold, silver, copper, and also for diamonds. So I did a demonstration, I gave a little talk at a holistic salon in Ireland, and a friend of mine, she came over with her golden rings, and she said, are they real gold? Are they real gold? So you can do that as well. Now, the Lecher antenna can also be used to evaluate corrections of these negative energies of the earth, and these corrections can be done with low budget to free materials. So I conducted elaborate research at the ancient megalithic sites in the west of Ireland, at the Loughcrew cairns in Ireland, and also in Carnac and Brittany, where there is a multitude of well-preserved ancient sites. This led me to very important discoveries about how the ancients worked with the energies of the land and different configurations of stones to clear the land of these negative earth energies for better well-being, better crops, better yields, better livestock. Now, I write about my research and discoveries in several books and also teach this long forgotten knowledge to others. Now, something I want to add here, I have never shared with anybody, or only a very few people, and which is not in my books, but it's very important as well, is that actually equipment and machines with movable arms, for example, or with movable parts, when they are on geopathy, they can actually start doing unexpected and unwanted maneuvers. So they could actually cause physical or material damage. So this is something that's like in a forgotten corner somewhere. What I remember, I'm going to go off the cards. Oh, that's very dangerous. I used to install laboratory equipment. I was a product manager, well, actually general manager of a company who sold machines for coagulation tests. And I remember one specific laboratory, their machine, every time we went there, we put everything back. The next day, it went haywire again. So that really afterwards made me think, oh, we should have moved that machine. That was probably on geopathy or neutralized the geopathy. So see, even the modern world can definitely make use of this. It's not things people are really aware of. Now, if you can show the next slide, please, Nick. Anyone can learn how to use and to work with a Lecher antenna. So I made several online courses. I have a mini course. That's only an hour of video on demand, which teaches you how to use and handle the Lecher antenna correctly. And you immediately can start doing your own research after taking this mini course. Then I have also silver modules, which are 1 or 2 levels of either geobiology or either bioenergetics. And then I have the gold modules, which contain all the levels of either geobiology or either bioenergetics. And the both gold modules together, I call the diamond module. And besides that, there's also a module if you want to become a bioenergetics, Lecher antenna bioenergetics practitioner. So it's only a small investment of your time and finances, but you get so much for it in return. So imagine feeling fantastic in a healthy home of a good vibrational quality in which you can thrive, to have balanced energies because you're working on yourself all the time, and finding diamonds or gold. I had never had the time to look for diamonds, to be honest, but well, I was going to say something, but it's gone. It's not on my cards anyway. So this brings us to the next slide, please. The types of megalithic sites at an energetic level. So I distinguish 5 recurring and reproducible types of energy configurations in different countries, being the one of single standing stones, or what they call in France menhir, full stone circles, half stone circles or hémicycle. In Brittany, there are no full stone circles. I know in the UK and in Ireland, there's plenty of full stone circles, but in Brittany, there are no full stone circles, only half stone circles. And they have a different energy pattern than the full stone circles. Then there are stone rolls, like the famous ones you can see in Carnac in Brittany. And then to keep it simple, I grouped mounds or tumuli. I think tumulus is the word in French for a mound, and in which there is a cairn, and in which in the cairn is a dolmen. So over the dolmen is a cairn, and over the cairn is generally the mound or the tumulus, to keep it simple. And then there is the rectangular arrangement of stones, or quadrilatère, quadrilateral, or quadrilatère in French. Or in Ireland, it's also known as courts. But by courts, I mean the older courts, the ones that date from 4000 BC. There are more recent courts in Ireland from 2000 BC, 1500 BC, but these have a different energy configuration to them, as if the knowledge was already getting lost then, was already partly lost. So it's the ancient rectangular arrangements of stones from 4000, maybe tops 3000 BC, that have this energy configuration. And I want to focus on that because it's the most useful to you in your day-to-day life. If you want to find out more about stone rows, half circles, dolmen, cairns, tumuli, you can do so in my books. So if you can show the next slide, please, Nick. Yes, so this is my book about the Loughcrew cairns in Ireland, Unveiling Ancient Knowledge at the Loughcrew Cairns, a journey into the discoveries of the subtle energies measured with the Lecher antenna. Now, I spent several years researching this site because it was so intact and so pure, and I was able to discover something completely unexpected. It's a very short book. It's in color. It has beautiful pictures in it of the stone art, which is well preserved as well. And it was definitely what I was expecting to find. But I would like to, I can give a whole lecture about this. But what I can say is that the element water here is very important. We will come back to water again. It's at several types of sites that water But cairns, I see this in France, I see this in Sligo, where the sites are less intact, but I see this pattern coming back as well. So this book was recognized by the Irish Heritage Council as creative, original, of cultural merit, a pioneering work shedding a whole new light on the subject of megaliths. So I've made a French version of it as well, which got the same recognition. Now, if you can show the next slide, please, Nick. So this is also a very important work, a pioneering work. This is, I describe my journey. When I did my research in the west of Ireland, I was probably not doing the Loughcrew cairns at that time. So I wanted to find like standing stones which were easily accessible. I wanted to go to the stone rows. So this describes my journey, going from Ireland, taking the ferry to Brittany, and then gradually going to Carnac and to measure all the sites there. So it's, I wrote about I did measurements almost every day, and I wrote about it every evening. That was very important to do so, no matter how long. I could have done thousands of measurements during the day, but I had to write about it in the evening. And I was saying to myself, I can't get any better than this. This is wow. God, what is all this that I have discovered? The next day, I've discovered something new. It was just discovery upon discovery upon discovery. Was really, really a very special time. It was really like the sites were saying, oh, we're going to show you all our secrets. We'll show you what you need to know. Yeah, and so it was really good to write about it and to do it on a daily basis, because I would never have been able to write it in the same manner after I had done the journey. So if you can show the next slide, that is the sequel to the Signpost to the Holy Grail. So here I go a bit deeper into more detailed measurements with the Lecher antenna, doing polarity measurements. I was doing that simultaneously, like at the Loughcrew cairns as well, which gave me even more information about what was happening. But the main configurations of the energies are in the Signpost to the Holy Grail. So this is more like refining work. And in this book, I also share, I managed to retrieve a document from the 1800s of excavations from a very large tumulus in the region, in which they made, I have also the drawings are in the book of what they found. And that was really amazing. There's no bones, nothing, no burned bones, no burial, axe heads, all kinds of axe heads, and the way they were positioned. And also I talk about this, what happens in the Carnac region. There were these green jadeite axe heads. They got high on top of the mountain in the Alps, and they made them to a certain shape, which is the Carnac, typical for the Carnac shape. And they meticulously put them in the region at certain locations, and there's definitely something going on there. So I share this in this book as well. Okay, so now this is a good time to say something about negative energies of the earth, as this information will be helpful to you when I talk about my findings at a rectangular arrangement of stones. Negative energies of the earth are caused by, for example, underground water currents. Other causes of these negative energies, that is also known as geopathic stress, are stagnant water, energy lines of the grids of the earth, geological faults, underground caverns, natural mineral concentrations, and so on. Now, geopathic stress has been implicated in a number of undesirable effects to human health, from simple conditions such as sleeplessness or confusion to highly dangerous ones like cancer, decreased fertility, and autoimmune dysfunction. I just also mentioned grids of the earth. Now, to keep it simple and understandable, I would like to mention the Hartmann grid. So if you can show the next slide, please. So Dr. Hartmann was a contemporary of Ernst Lecher, and he discovered that the earth is surrounded by an electromagnetic grid of energy lines running north to south and west to east. The north to south lines are about 2 meters apart. The west to east lines about 2.5 meters apart, and their width is about 21 centimeters. Now, these lines are everywhere. So you see how just they're only 2 meters apart, so they're everywhere. They're not in my house because I configured my house into a special megalithic configuration. So they're in your house, but they're not in my house. And they're in your garden, they're in your fields, they're everywhere. They're inside or outside. Now the distance between two lines and the width can vary according to where you are, and also can change caused by interference. So you have to measure it where you want to investigate. Another thing very few people know, I'm going to tell you here, is that these lines don't go up vertically. You will see depictions that they go up vertically, but they don't. They slant under a certain angle because the Earth's rotation makes that the higher you are, the more they lag. And you can actually measure it. When you trace the line going up, you can see it slanting. It's as easy as that. But it's better if you have a Lecher antenna because you can more easily verify this. So this is also why you have to measure at the level you want to investigate. You can't just extrapolate, say, oh, I'm going to do the ground floor and under the bed on the first floor because I want to do the bed. No. There's a special way of measuring the bed. I explain that in my geobiology level 2 and 3 course, how you can do that without having to step on the bed because that wouldn't be very easy to do. So I'm completely going off the cards again. Now, more grids were discovered since, of which another is named after the person who discovered it, which is called the Curry grid. There are more grids than that, but I want to limit myself to this because I want to show you what happens at the rectangular arrangement of stones later on in this talk. Now, the grids are energy lines that originate from the Earth's core, and it is thought that they each originate from a certain metal in that core. Now, this brings us to the if you can show the next slide, please. This brings us to the very special energy configuration I encounter at megalithic sites I want to elaborate on in this talk, being the rectangular arrangement of stones or quadrilateral. Now, this rectangular, if you can show the next slide, please. So this is an example of a quartz cairn in Ireland, Highwood, Moytura Court, which dates from around, I think, 4,000, 4,500 BC, and it has 2 chambers. You can't really see where they are divided, but they have 2 chambers that I can definitely confirm. Now, this rectangular configuration of stones, there's a lot happening here. It's actually not a lot happening when you compare it to other sites, but there is a lot happening here. What happens is that in each chamber, you have a beneficial set of energy lines which are created by the stones. So there's 2 lines that cross each other on the energetic middle of each chamber where there is a clockwise turning vortex, which is all created by the stones. Now, these beneficial energies, the lines that are formed, are positive ley lines, golden ratio lines of Fibonacci energy, sacred energy lines, and divine energy lines. Now, the interior of the chamber is free of geopathic stress. So this is because a protective shield has been created just outside the confinement of the stones. So the stones create a protective shield just outside their confinement, and they shift out the negative energies from the interior. And I'm going to show you in a video that will not now, but soon, how you can measure that. But you can, if you measure the interior and you can't find any geopathy, it's obvious, as the Hartmann lines are every 2 meters and you can't find them, it's obvious that something is going on here. Because this cairn is about, I think, 15 meters in length. But I will show you how you can measure that in a video that I made especially for today. What did I want to say now? This type of energy configuration at the right vibration creates a wonderful space for creative work, meditation, writing, just to be. So if you can show the next slide, please. This is another example of a megalithic site. This is the quadrilateral of Magneau in Carnac in Brittany, which I also researched, as well as Moitura. Now there is another site in the UK, if you can show the next slide, please. And that is King Arthur's Hall, Bodmin Moor. So you can clearly see that there is a rectangular configuration of stones here. And if you can show the next slide, please, which is also of King Arthur's Hall, you can see, this is from a different angle. It's a bit more difficult to see the stones, but you can see that there is stagnant water within that confinement of stones. We will come back to this later. Now, these photos were kindly provided by Stuart Dow, who is very passionate about the site and who has also gave a talk more recently about his findings at this site. But it would be very interesting to see, with what I'm going to show you later in the talk, whether the same thing is happening here. Okay, so there is another site. If you can show the next slide, please. This is Monk's Garden in the Brocéliande forest in Brittany, that I'm going to mainly talk about now. So Moitura Court, quadrilateral of Magneau, Monk's Garden, which has 3 chambers, and my house and the houses I configured in have this energy configuration. Now, a similar recreated type of this energy configuration at the right vibration, very important, no matter its dimensions, no matter its orientation, is experienced as soft and enjoyable. And I can also confirm that it doesn't have to be a perfect rectangle. It's the idea that counts, as long as it looks a bit like a rectangle. Now, I mainly use it as a rescue remedy for dwellings that are suffering from severe geopathic stress, like a large running stream going under the house or being completely over-stagnating water. So it creates a set of beneficial energies in each room, even the hallway. And this has led me to develop my Lecher antenna geobiology training, which I teach mainly online, but sometimes also in person, and which I call Neolithic geobiology and lithotherapy of places, as being space clearing by means of specific stones. So thanks to the stones and megalithic sites, I was able to develop a means of how you can create a wonderful and enjoyable space which has many beneficial energies and has a protective shield that shifts out negative energies, but it also keeps out negative energies. Say like negative thought forms. Somebody is jealous or angry. That cannot penetrate that shield. So if your house is configured like this, a lot of that negative stuff I've measured can't seem to get into the house. the protective shield makes sure that you are okay. That's amazing, isn't it? It's just what I measure. So now another thing is, say you're in a terraced house or in an apartment, and you shift all that geopathy outside the stones where you configure it. That's at your neighbors. That's a no-go. So I gave that a good think and good research. It's also Carnac which inspired me, that there are certain other types of stones that can neutralize that geopathy. So that's all is well, that ends well, your neighbors are well, everybody's well. Now I have prepared a short video I made at Monk's Garden in the Brocéliande the Forest of Brittany, which is very interesting but also educational. But at first I want to show some slides to explain what you're going to see in the video. So if you can show the next slide, Nick, please. So this is again the first large chamber, and behind it are two smaller chambers. So if you can show the next slide. So here I'm standing at the end of the large chamber, and behind me are the smaller chambers. And the third chamber has lesser stones and is on a slight elevation. So if you can show the next slide. So this is a plan I found at the site with all these scratches on it, but just to show you that you can see that there are 3 chambers. Now, the next slide, please. This is what I'm going to show you in the video. So I'm gonna stand first outside of the large chamber and measure how many Hartmann energy grid lines and how many Curry lines have shifted out from the interior of the site to outside of the site. So this is actually your proof that there is a protective shield. So I also researched the whole site, whether there were incoming streams. So I found a stream coming in. Then I will be in the large chamber where I will show you how I measure some of the beneficial energies. I don't want to make the video too long. That's in each chamber, but the video will be 20 minutes if I show all of that. So I made it a bit shorter. So I'm just going to show you that I measure divine energy, no, sacred energy, and Fibonacci, golden ratio energy. And that there are 2 lines that cross each other on the energetic middle. There is a clockwise turning vortex there, but I don't show it in the video. That's in each chamber as well, that you get this clockwise turning vortex. And then I also looked for where does this stream go out. So I'm going to show that as well. The same as I did like in the previous video, I will look for the center of the stream and the direction of the flow. So if you can show the next slide, please. So at location 2, location 1 is where I'm going to show the protective shield. So how many Hartmann and Curry lines have shifted out from the interior of the site. I hope it's all not too much what I'm saying here. Imagine me explaining all the megalithic sites. You probably all have a headache after that. I'm almost there. Hang in there. So at 2, there is the stream coming in, and it makes a sharp bend. It goes to 3 and then on to 4. At 3, there's actually stagnating water. I don't show it in the video how I measured this, but the stream comes in, it makes a steep bend, it takes on, it stagnates, it takes on the beneficial energies, goes to the second chamber, takes on the beneficial energies, go to the third chamber, takes on the beneficial energies, and then it leaves the site. So that water going out is very different from that water going in. So this is also an element water at a megalithic site. It's completely different from the Loughcrew cairns, completely different. But maybe interesting to know as well is that there are springs in the Brocéliande forest. There is a spring called the Fontaine de Jouvence, and that is the fountain of youth. And if you drink from it, you will get eternal life. And that spring is very close to Merlin's tomb, which is a dolmen. And under Merlin's tomb, there is a water current very close to the Fontaine de Jouvence. So is this all interconnected? I mentioned my research at Merlin's tomb in my book Signpost to the Holy Grail. Now, there's other springs there, but I'm not going to talk about that. So without further ado, I would like to show you the video.
Okay, I'll just get that going.
The Monk's Garden video. So these are some of the stones. They're so, look at all those quartz particles in those stones. And then the shapes. I just love this photo. It's so magical there. So magical. It's amazing what's happening there, isn't it? You wouldn't expect it to find something like this. And very likely, if somebody can just like get a Lecher antenna, do my mini course and go out to King Arthur's Hall, maybe Stuart should think he might be listening. It's so easy to learn. What are you waiting for? Now, how the ancients worked with the stones and the energy of the land for better crops and better livestock, I just want to mention briefly. Now, this is for outdoors. Don't do this indoors. So if you can show the next slide of the presentation, please. That is of a single standing stone.
One moment. There we go.
So this is the big standing stone of Champ-Dolan in Dol de Bretagne. So if you can show the next slide. That's little me, just for size. So this stone has never fallen down. I think it's about 4000 BC as well, but the specifications of the stone and the weight and the height and everything and the dating, it's all in my book, Signposts to the Holy Grail, Infinite Energy with Infinite Possibilities, Dowsed with the Lecher Antenna in Carnac and Brittany, France. So this was really on my program. First thing, I came off the ferry, I stayed in near the standing stone, and I measured there all day long. And it was, it confirmed my findings in Ireland and even more than that. And as you can see as well, behind me, you can see a little stone. That's in black granite. That's actually a collaboration stone. So the large stone is actually missing an energy, and that little one is doing it. Yeah, sometimes that happens as well. Yeah, I forgot to mention that about collaboration stones and satellite cairns, and that they help each other. So the ancients were like putting stuff together, when they saw that like one stone wasn't enough, they would put in other stones to make sure that they could achieve what they wanted to achieve. And that was mainly about the water. Now, this is not about water. Standing stones is not about water. I know a lot of people are saying that it might be just a little part of it, but you really need to read up what's happening with single standing stones, because this is for better crops and better livestock as well. Now, another one for better crops and better livestock is if you can show the next slide, please, which is again my book, Unveiling Ancient Knowledge at the Loughcrew Cairns. So this is about exceptional water for better crops and better livestock. And the same is happening at Tumulai as well. And it's also with either collaboration stones or collaboration structures. So if you can show the next slide, please. So I just want to mention again that I use the rectangular arrangement of stones as a rescue remedy for severe geopathy or negative energies of the earth. And I teach this in my biology gold module. And it requires also, you have to work a bit with the stones to make sure they want to do it. And yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into that. but it has to be exactly right. And it has to be at the exactly right vibration as well. So it's not only this, but I would work with colors as well. I would harmonize a room or a house even further. So I will do different things to a dwelling to make sure that everything is really perfect. But I teach that in my Geobiology Gold module, which is online as well. So each site has a different energetic quality, although reproducible energy patterns are definitely the case. Every site also has a different feel to it, which can depend on the person visiting. I would like to leave that for you to discover for yourself. I have found out that I am able to program the stones just like they did in ancient times. In other words, I can work with the stones, which opens up the possibility of doing land healing and house clearings, and I teach this to others. Now, maybe say, I'm going off the cards here, is that I actually was doing it before I found out that this was happening at megalithic sites. So there is another book I wrote, my first book. It's not mentioned in this talk, in which I mentioned that I was puzzled. I didn't know what I was measuring and what was happening. I had to really research it much further before I could come to these conclusions. So I have a few other books. Now that first book I don't mention in this talk. If you can show the next slide, please, Nick. So I wrote a practical guide, which is highly well, popular, I would say. A lot of people do like it. It's in 5 languages. I translated it myself. It's a basic course in geobiology and bioenergy. So this contains more information than a mini course, but some people like the mini course and the practical guide together because it's like a written and a visual way of learning. Then there are my new books. If you can show the next slide, please. Now, these are what I wrote in 2025, which I call my Egypt series. Now, these are very special. The Lecher antenna is featured in both books, but not as its main feature. Now, both books are written as an ongoing love story based on real-life experiences. It's about exploring regression therapy, QHHC to be precise, which takes the characters in the book to a very special ancient site in Egypt. In the first book, is the Lecher antenna is explained and mentioned for measuring the vibration, a very hot topic at the moment. And this book also contains how I was able to create a ley line. In the second book, twin flames and twin flame telepathy are explored. The twins decide telepathically to explore the ancient labyrinth in Egypt and what's underneath it through regressions they undertake together. What they find is mind-blowing. Most of the book is about quantum physics and quantum entanglement. Now, in the second book, I share a short and very special bioenergetics method I retrieved from a secret document, which has 1,000 pages, from esteemed medical doctors, which was confided to me. I won't tell on camera what exactly is being measured, but it is in the book how you can measure it with which settings if you wish to measure this unusual type of energy. It goes very well with what those doctors share there. It goes very well with what's happening in both books because it's all very multidimensional. It's about ascension, it's about 5th dimension and higher. So yeah, not going to say more about it. It's very, very special. Now, if you can show the next slide, please. I just want to share some of my social media. So I have a Facebook page. Lecher Antenna and an Instagram account, Lecher Antenna Training, Research and Books. So that was a mouthful. I'm at the end. I made it. Thank you for listening. I hope everybody's still there.
Oh, thank you very much. That was a great talk. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I think what we'll do, I haven't been monitoring the chat. Have you been monitoring the chat, Richard, at all? No, I don't think he's there. But we do appear to have some questions here. But